Yo, what's good guys, I'm Fire here back from the video, and today we're going to be bringing you guys another defensive scheme. This is one that's definitely been run a lot more recently. It's one that you guys should have seen that I should have uploaded before, but we got it now, and it's going to be a nice little man coverage scheme. You guys have definitely been seeing a lot of man coverage. If you watched the tournaments, you saw a lot of man coverage, so we're going to bring you some of the setups that I like to go to, and we're going to start out in a dollar or big dime 236 Sam. They're the same thing pretty much. It just depends on which playbook you're in. I'm in the Dolphins playbook right now. You could run any playbook with dollar if you want, of course, but we're just going to rock out with the 236 Sam. Again, they're basically mirror matches of each other, so not too big of an issue. Now, when you're running man coverage, a very important thing you want is safeties at linebacker, which you should have anyway, but it's going to be even more important when they are in man coverage. So get some safeties at linebacker. We got Jason McCourty. We got Brandon Jones right here. And then, of course, get some good pass rushers with dollar. You're either going to be blitzing or rushing 3. So in the times that you're rushing 3, you need those guys to hopefully get some decent pressure for you. So we're just going to come out in the play. We're going to run cover 1 robber press. You'll see why. We'll just leave our zone drops at default for now. I might show some setups where you might want to change them, and I will, of course, mention that in those scenarios. So without further ado, let's jump straight into it. All right, so hopping onto the field, you're just going to take a look. Now, when you're running man coverage out of this dollar formation against, or dollar, I'm going to call it dollar, but it is, again, big dime 236. When you're running it man coverage out of this formation, what you see is you have 2 slot corners. They're both going to end up on that right side in a bunch. We're going to play this against bunch. Odds are you're playing against bunch if it's Madden 22. So first thing I like to do is just press. You're just going to press your defensive backs. Again, have some really good corners for this scheme, hopefully. The next thing that you're going to do is actually bring this guy down. So you see you got your safety here. You're actually going to bring him down into the middle. This is something that I've seen a lot of guys do. This is something that I like doing. You're going to bring him down almost in the middle, kind of creating a 3-3-5 normal look. Of course, you have an extra defensive back that goes on the cornerback position instead of an extra safety or linebacker. But so that's what you're going to do. The guy you're using is going to be Holland, your free safety in this scenario. So you're going to go ahead and user him. And now you get an interesting situation. Now, the first way you can actually run it is go with curl flats on both sides. So that's definitely a way you can do it. Just put curl flat and curl flat. Another thing that you can do potentially is go with manning up the running back, which we'll show after this one. So you can do a couple of different things. This is the first way we're going to do it. Now, with your user, you of course got to watch deep posts, things like that, because you don't have any safety help. So you're going to be watching all the deep routes, but you see pretty good coverage all the way down the field. Not much is going to be really open. And again, a lot of these might be mismatches because we don't have all of these really good defenders that you guys probably do have on your team. But overall, just the man coverage look is really good. Get some good corners, get acrobat, because in the case that they do get burnt, and this is just a weird, if you were wondering why Evan Ingram was open, it was just because these guys got bombed, which you don't expect to happen a lot, but that was the only reason for separation. But yeah, curl flats are going to do a decent job at defending these routes, and it really depends on how your opponent's playing as well. If he is blocking his running back, definitely go with this adjustment where you have 2 curl flats with both of your linebackers. If your opponent is going ahead, sending his running back out on like little option routes, things like that, it's probably best to go ahead and man him up because, again, you can't afford to bring your user all the way down and defend things with the running back. But also the 3-rec hook, it's definitely a lot better to have this 3-receiver hook zone in that middle of the field linebacker spot rather than having him at the safety position. He just can jump to a lot of different things. And again, if it's there's like an angle route here, he's going to be all over it. He's not necessarily going to match in this case, but verticals is kind of like an all deep route, so he's usually going to defend, underneath routes kind of like this, which is also another reason why you might not necessarily need to go ahead and man that running back up. So we'll show it again. Press. Something might help is moving this guy inside a little bit just manually. But again, move this safety inside. We're, for this first setup, going with 2 curl flats, both of those linebackers. And then with your user, you can kind of move him in here. Now, there's not really a reason to disguise. I know some people might be like, why do you want him to know where you're using? Now, he will know that you're using the safety in this case majority of the time, but there's not really any telling with the play. If he sees your coverage like this, he's going to know it's man coverage. This isn't a disguise necessarily, but it's really just a matter of can he beat your man coverage? And you're going to hope that the answer is no. So we're going to snap the ball here. But, I mean, you see the coverage is pretty dang good. Even though the running back route wasn't necessarily manned up there, you saw that the 3-rec slightly came down, might take away that throw, might make him hesitate a little bit on that throw. And then later in the play, the curl flat's pretty much over there to make the tackle. But again, man coverage on this route is going to get beat anyway. So a lot of the running back routes will beat man anyway. You see the curl flat kind of sitting over there. And then the 3-rec actually matches onto him from across the field, which is pretty cool. You don't never see zones do that. Of course, with your user, I was kind of watching some other stuff, but I would have been all over that. And overall, just really, really good defense. Now, as far as the shading over the top type stuff, I'm not the biggest fan of shading over the top in this scenario. You could. I don't think it's going to work out as good, but we'll show what it looks like. And again, setting up our same exact defense. Here is your look. This time we're going to run like a flood look. Just call it kind of a stock flood. But yeah, man, you see the coverage is pretty good. Again, a lot of these throws, they kind of seem open, but trust me, guys will be a little bit scared. A lot of people in this game like to have something completely open to throw it. Whereas when you look at these plays, they have at most 2 yards of separation. With acrobats, those passes can turn risky. Kind of the route I'm talking about is Sterling Shepard, so you take a look at him. You can definitely throw this route, but it's risky that you have a little curl flat. And again, this was just him getting bumped, which he would have been over a little bit better. As far as not pressing, you see it's just going to simply play like this. He's just going to turn. You still can get these weird bumps, but I just like the way they press a little bit better. And as long as you have max speed, as much speed as you can possibly get, it shouldn't be an issue of just straight up getting burnt. You don't rarely see that. If you recognize one of your guys get burnt on a post, maybe a streak route, just user it, give up the underneath route, and live to play another down. You don't want to give up one-play touchdowns in this game. Something that I always like to say is the most important downs and distances or yard margins are going to be inside both of the 20-yard lines, and that's mainly the red zone. So it's really easy to move the ball, from 20 to 20, but once you get inside that red zone, it's going to be a lot difficult. And that's where you really want to step up defensively. So we'll go ahead, show some of the other things that you can do with this play. Again, we'll press. Something I like to do on every down is going to be move this guy down. But let's say we want a straight up man coverage look and we want help over the top, but we don't want any curl flat zones, which I like having the curl flat zones. But if you're getting beat deep, if he's running, if he's a weirdo, let's say he's running bunch trail every play, he's trying to beat you just deep with a deep post or something. What you can actually do is this setup. And take a look at this setup. You still going to have the 3 receiver hooks. You're not necessarily leaving yourself alone, but let's say they go with like a slant and a crosser. What are you going to do in that scenario? You can't do a whole lot. You got to hope for some kind of a match, some kind of a good press. And a lot of times with this press man-to-man coverage, you'll get one guy blanketed. So you're hoping that one of the crossers gets like blanketed, kind of like RB here. RB is a difficult throw over here. You see, you couldn't really do much in that situation. Now, I didn't pass lead, but he's more or less covered. I'm going to call that covered. But yeah, this is definitely a good option. And again, you don't want to give him the same look. You want to mix up. You can give him the same look defensively, but kind of from the eye standpoint, but mix up who's in which coverage and who is doing what assignment. So I could move this guy in the same spot that we had when we were using, but now we're going to user Brandon Jones over here. We're going to flip the man coverage, and we're just going to user this right linebacker. So here would be your setup again. Now, we're generally just going to stick with the 3-man rush. I wouldn't recommend blitzing extra guys, and I wouldn't recommend only blitzing 2 people just because of how slow we are getting pressure regardless now. And again, the types of things I might be concerned with would be maybe a setup like this, where this setup doesn't really look the best on paper, but you have a little slant, something like this. And again, you see the slant gets blanketed because we have a better corner. And Kenny Golladay is not the worst receiver in the world. I think his rating has definitely slipped because he hasn't played good. But with the man coverage, what's your objective? Why are we running man coverage? Why is it more popular? Because a lot of times you can get at least one receiver to do this. And in a route combo like this, the verticals that I had, there's only 2 man beating routes, the slant and the crosser. So we see the slant get blanketed. I'm immediately going to go up, user this crosser, and you see the crosser. That's not open either. So you get scenarios like this where 2 of his man-beating routes are covered. The running back is the only one slightly open. If he wants to throw that, you'll give that up all game. There's also situations where, let's say they block the tight end. This was a 6-man protection. You kind of get a little QB spy type route here. He's going to kind of sit in the middle of the field, take away underneath routes, along with the 3 receiver hook who's going to play like 10 yards above him. So just something I think was cool, and I think that's a very useful adjustment and a thing for you guys to do. Now, another thing you can do, maybe, let's say we want just one curl flat, and again, I mentioned this earlier. You go curl flat, you go man coverage, snap the ball, pretty basic stuff. A lot of times people will think this streak is open. It's not necessarily the case. A lot of times you get this animation, so it kind of looks like he gets open because of the release, but really when you throw it up, you're not actually burnt. So that is definitely a decent adjustment. Now, let's say escape artist. What do you do about escape artist now? I mean, you can't necessarily do much about it. You can contain and hope, but there's not really any good escape artist defense in this game, I'll be honest. You could risk spying somebody, so let's say we'll go with the first adjustment, we spy. That play is a little bit tricky because what do you do in the case that they throw a running back on a wheel or something else? Because now you have a spy, you have one curl flat, and you're going to have to use her here. So you're either going to have to take away your 3 receiver hook, one of those curl flats, just to have a spy. Now the spy can definitely be helpful, but with QB spies, your escape artist outruns them anyway, so I don't really find too huge of a point on doing that. Because at any down, at any time, Derrick Henry or Jalen Hurts could outrun you whenever they wanted. So I don't see the huge reason behind that personally, but be my guest. Do whatever contain things you like to do. QB spy, whoever you want, but I'm just showing you guys the coverage adjustments that I would go to personally, and I would, on every play, try to keep at least 2 zones or 3 of these zones the same, and it's going to be having at least a 3 rec and at least 1 hook curl, or 1 curl flat rather. And then if you want, you can man up the running back, or we can go with our other hook or curl flat adjustment. And again, I'm running it stock. I'll show you next play something that you can do, and take a look at that little option route bagged by our 3 receiver hook there. But let's go into zone drops. Let's say he's killing with us with a certain corner route. Some routes getting open. Let's say it's a corner route. So if it's corner route, we have a really simple fix. We'll set that curl flat adjustment to about 20 yards. And if I still want like a hard flat or kind of a default zone over here, what we can do is kind of turn this into a cloud flat. And again, the flats are going to play different than the curl flats because we'll have our flats on default. So we'll have kind of a cloud flat over here. The way you get a cloud flat is just by putting McCourty, and this is kind of difficult to do because if you're pressed, you don't want to shade over the top. There's not much you can do else to get a cloud flat. So you ultimately will have to shade over the top your DBs. It can affect the play, but if you want to defend a corner out, this is something that you could do. Let's go to something like Z spot, and he's not going to play there because we can't set our zone drops in practice mode. But you can just imagine. You see, this is a good corner out, bagged, and again, our slot corner is not anybody super special. In this case, I think he's around below 75 over. You see he's absolutely bagged Sterling Shepard on pretty much every single route that's in the route tree. That deep pass on verticals, we've seen him more or less defend him well on the out route, and then the corner route, you see it's defended. So man coverage just had a really good spot in this game, similar to where it was in Madden 21. If you want to see another man coverage scheme in a different formation like a 3-3-5 wide, let me know. I can definitely bring that to you guys. But without further ado, that's the end of the video. If you enjoyed, drop a like, subscribe to the channel down below, follow all my links down below as well, and peace. I'm out of here.